And so this is about sort of training your attention to be more biased in a positive direction. You're always going to pick out that negative stuff anyway. You don't need to work on that. What you do need to do is sort of balance it out and also see some of the positive.
Hey everybody, before we start the show, I want to make a couple disclaimers. This show does cover a wide variety of topics related to mental health and life in general, and some of those could be sensitive for you. I want to simultaneously encourage you to be brave in consuming difficult content, but also respect and recognize your limitations. So please use your best judgment. I will never be offended if you need to skip a question or an episode entirely, but feel free to feel it out, check out the episode, and just see what happens. If you need to skip, that's okay, but feel free to give it a shot first. I also need to say that while I am a psychologist, I'm not your psychologist, and I'm not your therapist. This is not intended to be direct medical advice, and you should not use this as a substitute for professional help. So with those said, let's go ahead and get into the show.
All right. Hello, friends of all varieties. This is the Hardcore Self-Help Podcast, episode 344. I'm your host, Dr. Robert Duff, aka Duff the Psych. I make mental health content for real people just like you. And today we are doing something a little bit different. This is going to be a pretty short and sweet episode. I feel like I've been saying that a lot lately. This one probably actually will be, though. I'm not going to do a question and answer this week. I had the idea that I would like to share with you one thing that's been working really well for me, and it's relatively simple, but I just wanted to give you some guidelines. This is what I've been calling essentially my self-therapy protocol. Now, to be clear, self-therapy does not actually mean self-therapy. You can't do therapy on yourself. One of the main things about therapy is that you have an external perspective, somebody who doesn't have skin in the game the same way that you do with your life. So they're able to reflect things back to you in a different way. And of course they have, techniques and knowledge and things like that to apply as well. But, a lot of the work in bettering yourself or keeping yourself emotionally stable, healthy, etc., takes place outside of the therapy room as well, even if you're already doing therapy. So I always talk about things like journaling or other ways of self-reflecting and trying to, kind of push yourself to engage with your emotions and feelings and things of that sort. So this is one nice structured way to do that. And it's something that I've been doing very frequently. So for me, I've been doing this typically when walking the dog in the morning. So I walk the dog for, half an hour or so in the morning. Or when I'm driving, I have about a 40-minute commute to work typically. And so I have, these periods of time when I can sort of think to myself. I can also do it sometimes when washing the dishes, usually while I'm doing something else, but it doesn't have to be. And I just set aside some time to literally talk to myself. And if you were around me when this is happening, if you were walking next to me while I'm walking the dog, you would hear me murmuring to myself. If you were driving next to me on the freeway, you would see me like I look like I'm on a phone call or something, totally just talking to myself out loud. And I think there's something really helpful about that. When you speak information out loud, you do tend to process it in a little bit of a different way than you would if you just simply thought it or if you, wrote it down. Different modes of expression lead to different modes of, understanding and processing the information. So it's been very helpful for me. So what I would like to do is basically take you through step by step my protocol. And this changes over time. This is what's working for me right now. And I've been, kind of adding to it bit by bit and refining. And I will say that, I've been doing pretty well emotionally lately. I think that there are, ups and downs with life and things that I could be stressed about and do get stressed about. But overall, I think that my emotional health has been pretty good and probably better than it has been for quite a while. So this is working out really well for me. And I will lead you through step by step and talk about it. And then after I talk about the kind of overall protocol, then I'll go through and actually do it with you here live. I might have to censor myself a little bit in terms of, I don't want to share too much personal information about anybody else as it is relevant. But I will do my best to give you a real life example of what this looks like to go through sort of the self-therapy protocol. So sit back and relax and hang with me for a few minutes here while I tell you about this. And let's just jump into it. So this has how many parts? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 parts. 5 parts. Not anything too crazy. But the first thing that I do is I ask myself, how am I feeling? And like I said, I literally talk out loud to myself. So I go, all right, let's do this. Self-therapy time. How are you feeling? And from that point, what I do is just try to take a moment and be sort of silent and scan internally and look for any feelings that come up. It could be really obvious feelings. It could be more subtle feelings. So it could be like, I'm feeling agitated today, or I'm feeling calm. I'm feeling let down. I'm feeling disappointed. I'm feeling stressed. I'm feeling anxious. I'm feeling really excited, proud, whatever. And typically what I'll do is, identify whatever emotion comes up, and then I will see if there's anything to go further with. So I'll see if there's something below the surface that's a better descriptor of that feeling. So let's say that I'm kind of just sitting there and I think I'm feeling melancholy. Then I will say, okay, why melancholy? What sort of melancholy? I guess I'm feeling hopeless. I guess I'm feeling a little bit uninspired. These are arbitrary examples. So I'm not saying that's how I feel right now. I'll get to that. But I kind of try to go deeper and see if there's any more refinement that I can make to those feelings. And as always, if you feel like you just don't have the language for this, start with what you have. And it's always helpful to go and check out that emotions wheel. If you just go on Google and search, emotions wheel chart or something like that, you can get a picture of it. And you can work your way out to the edges from the center, where you go from basic emotions to those more sort of refined ones. And they're not always, super refined. You could just be feeling a basic thing, but a lot of times there is some more nuance there. So I'll go through one by one, and I try to identify, each of the things that I can pull out until I run out of feelings, right? I'm feeling a little bit of this. I'm feeling some of that. Okay, I think that is actually this. And you just kind of go through each one individually. And then what I do is I say, okay, why? What's contributing to this? What are the factors that are contributing to me feeling this way? So for instance, let's just stick with the feeling melancholy and hopeless. So if I were feeling melancholy and hopeless, I'd say, okay, so why melancholy? Why hopeless? Well, I feel like no matter what I do, it's hard to make a dent in, say, student loan debt or something like that. Again, arbitrary examples here. But, pull out what are the, contributing factors. If I'm feeling let down, if I'm feeling disappointed, maybe it's that I thought I was going to be able to do something this weekend. And it turns out that because of something going on with my family, I'm not going to be able to do that. Whatever it is, try to find what the contributing factors or sources for that feeling are. And again, I'll go through each one. And then from there, once I've identified what the feelings are, once I've identified what the contributing factors are, then I say to myself, okay, is there anything to be done about that? And this one's pretty important for me because, I think that as humans, we really, really like trying to solve problems. And we tend to keep the problem spinning in our head until we either have a solution or admit to ourselves that there isn't anything that needs to be done about it. And so even if there's nothing to be done about it, acknowledging that and saying, okay, well, that is going to be what it is for now. That is sometimes enough to let it lighten up, to let it, release some of its grip on your mind. So yeah, I go through each one and say, okay, is there anything to be done about this? And sometimes that can be for the positive emotions as well. If it's like, okay, today I'm feeling really light. I'm feeling buoyant. I'm feeling motivated. Okay, why motivated? Well, things are off to a good start. I've been very productive today and I have energy to work with. All right. Is there anything to be done about that? Yeah. Okay. Maybe this would be a good time to capitalize on that energy and attack this, creative task that I've been putting off or this problem that I've been trying to solve. Something like that. Right. So it could be a really good opportunity to dive into that. So it's not always just the negative emotions, asking yourself if there's anything to be done about any of those emotions. So that's step one. I go through that whole process, and you can go as deep into that as you would like, or as shallow as you would like. And you could certainly mix up the steps. For me, for some reason in my brain, going through one by one and identifying all the emotions first is helpful. Then going through and identifying the factors for each, then going through and thinking if there's anything to be done about each in that order. That works for me because I like having a full lay of the land and then going down in like kind of subsequent layers of complexity, I suppose. But for you, maybe you just do each one individually, kind of in a more, I'm thinking like a tall silo. You go through the feeling, where it's coming from and what you could do about that. And the next feeling, where it's coming from, what you could do about that. Whatever works for you. This is just my example. So that's the first part. That's about how I'm feeling. The next part that we're going to get into is a little bit simpler. I guess each of these next ones are, a bit simpler. But before we do that, I want to take a quick break and talk about our sponsor for today. So let me throw some numbers at you. It's approximated that we take about 20,000 breaths per day. And in volume, that's about 3,000 gallons of air. Now, according to a 2020 census report, nearly half the population, about 165 million people, live in areas with unhealthy levels of air pollution or ozone. And more we spend quite a bit of time indoors. An estimate for Americans is not very favorable. It says we spend on average about 90% of our time indoors, and that's quite a bit. And so, with the pollution that's in the air, and if you're like me, the allergens, pet dander, pollen, dust mites, things of that sort, that's a lot of dirty air to be breathing in. We don't have a whole lot of control over what's happening in the outside world, but we do have a degree of control over what's happening indoors. So what's the solution? I want to talk to you about an air purifier, and it's captured the attention of a bunch of established media outlets, CNN, ABC, all sorts of places have been interested in this, and I can tell why, because it's a great product. That product is Air Doctor. So we're talking about Air Doctor filters. And what Air Doctor does is it filters out dangerous contaminants and allergens so your lungs don't have to. It uses an ultra HEPA filter that's been independently tested to remove 99.99% of tested bacteria and viruses. Now, allergens and bacteria can vary in size, but the average pollen size is about 25 microns. And Air Doctor virtually removes 100% of particles as small as 0.003 microns. And it's very powerful. It's powerful enough to circulate the air in a 630 square foot room 4 times per hour. It's also very quiet, so about 30% quieter than other fans and air purifiers. So for that reason, I've actually brought mine to the office where I work. I sit there for hours and do assessments. It's quiet enough that it doesn't bother anybody, and the room, that I work in is small enough that it's constantly recirculating the air. So I feel really good about that. If you're interested, if you're in the market for an air purifier that really does its job, check out Air Doctor. It comes with the no questions asked 30-day money-back guarantee. So if you don't love it, you can just send it back for a refund minus the shipping. So head to airdoctorpro.com, airdoctorpro.com, use the promo code DUFF, and depending on the model, you can get up to 40% off. So 40% off. You can lock in the special by going to airdoctor, AIRDOCTOR, PRO, airdoctorpro.com. Use the promo code DUFF. And with that 40% off, that can be up to $300 off. So check it out, airdoctorpro.com, promo code DUFF. Okay, so let's get back into the protocol here. So we've done how we're feeling. The next thing I like to do is something that a lot of you have probably done, which is a gratitude list. And in particular, I like to do 3 points. You could do more if you want, but I wouldn't do any less than 3 points for these. So 3 things that you're grateful for. And whenever we're doing something like tracking gratitude or any other item where we're making a list of it and trying to do that as often as possible, maybe every day or a few times a week, the point of that is basically to reorient what your brain is paying attention to. So maybe you can recognize, yeah, of course, I'm grateful for things. So there are things that I'm happy about, but our brains are really, really, really good at tuning into negative things. And it's a protective factor, right? It's something that keeps us safe as a species. Like we're good at recognizing danger. We're good at recognizing patterns and responding to them. But that can create sort of a negative bias in our minds where we're really pulling out the things that are annoying or frustrating or feel risky or dangerous to us. And so we start to ignore some of the other stuff that's around us, that's always around us, that makes us feel more positive emotions. And so this is about sort of training your attention to be more biased in a positive direction. You're always going to pick out that negative stuff anyway. You don't need to work on that. What you do need to do is sort of balance it out and also see some of the positive. So gratitude, very, very simple. You think about 3 things that you're grateful for. And these could be big things or small things. Some days it's like, I'm grateful for my relative health. I feel okay today and I'm really grateful about that. Other times it's something big, it's like, hey, I'm really grateful for this amazing opportunity that happened to me, or I'm really grateful for this unexpected windfall of money, or, whatever it might be. So it could be big, it could be small. 3 things that you're grateful for. And if you're having a hard time coming up with 3, that's fine. Take your time, right? Don't bail out of it. Take the time that you need to keep thinking about it and keep sort of searching your feelings, paying attention to your day. Maybe you don't get this all done in one time. Maybe you realize that, okay, I'm not going to be able to make it through the whole list by the time I'm done walking my dog. So you come back to it later, or you have your eyes open and fill in the blanks during the day. But no less than 3 things that you're grateful for. And then very similarly to that, the next thing that I like to do is 3 things that I'm proud of myself for. And the guidelines are loose here in terms of time. This isn't a school assignment or something like that, so it doesn't matter what time period you're talking about. What I typically do is basically 3 things that I'm proud of since the last time I did this exercise, or since the last time I journaled, or whatever. Again, this is usually verbal for me these days, but you could do this in any format. But yeah, 3 things that I'm proud of. And again, these could be things that are big or small. So, a good throwaway one, if you're really having a hard time, is I'm proud of myself for taking the time to go through this sort of protocol. Like, that's a good one. I'm proud of myself for getting up today and actually going to work. And then, of course, there are sometimes bigger ones. I'm proud of myself for finally speaking up to my boss, or I'm proud of myself for finally setting that boundary, or I'm proud of myself for kicking ass at XYZ thing. It could be big, it could be small. And with that, it's very, very similar, right? You're tracking no less than 3 things. And I think this out of any of them is the one that will give some of you a hard time, because that negative bias, it's hard to think of things that we're proud of yourself for, especially if you're currently in the midst of, struggling with a bit of depression or something of that sort. Your brain's not going to want to pull them out. You're going to be like, I'm trash. Like, I don't fucking know. I'm not proud of myself for anything. I guess I got out of bed, but don't go cheap on it. Force yourself. Keep trying. This is you trying to squeeze your brain in a way that makes it pay more attention to this stuff. And that's going to be beneficial over time. It's not like one time is going to solve everything. But if you're doing this, every day for a month, you're going to notice that you start to notice more stuff that's good and that you're proud of. So really push yourself to get at least 3 things. If you want to go further than that, cool, bonus. But at least 3 things that you're proud of. Okay, so far we have how am I feeling? We have a gratitude list. We have things that you're proud of yourself for. The other one that I like to do is not exactly, I don't usually use the term like something that I'm not doing well at or an area of improvement. I usually like to say what I'd like to continue working on is the way I like to phrase that. So something that you would like to continue working on. And examples of things, that have come up for me recently have been like communication, or I'd like to continue getting better at taking care of small tasks when it's time instead of putting them off, or I'd like to continue working on, my clinical skills and actually researching things, whatever, anything that you feel like is an area that you could continue making progress on, in addition to all the positive stuff of gratitude and what you're proud of, etc. It's good to also have a target for continuing to improve yourself, right? We're not just trying to be Pollyanna-ish and just like, oh, sunshine, rainbows, butterflies, unicorns. No, like we have shit to work on too, and that's okay. So what you would like to continue improving on is the next thing. Again, could be big, could be small, right? Could be a broader thing. It could be something that's very, very, very specific. And more recently, what I've added in, the last thing that is on my 5-point protocol here, and this is one that I've added in most recently, is something beautiful that I've seen or witnessed from the day. So this could be literally something visually beautiful. Like this morning on my list was simply like, I live in an area with really cool mountains. I'm lucky to live in this beautiful valley in Southern California. And this morning, the way that the mist and clouds were hanging low over the mountains and the light and the clouds in the sky, like it was just like a gorgeous scene. And so as I was driving the kids to school, I was like, oh yeah, this is going to be the thing that makes it to my list, you know? But other times it's something that's not necessarily, an image, but something that I witness, right? So for instance, it could be something that my kids do. Maybe they are being very grateful to each other and really nice to each other. It could be something that I witness when I'm in line at Starbucks. It could be, a beautiful person that I saw. It could be anything, right? It could be a piece of media, whatever. But just picking out something beautiful from the world. And that's my protocol. That's my self-therapy protocol. And I've been doing it almost every day. I don't know that I did yesterday, but I did today. And I've been trying to do it almost every day. And it's probably been a good month or two that I've been that consistent and sort of building this intentionally into a protocol. And it feels really good. It feels really good. I feel like at any given time, I'm at least in touch with how I'm doing and what's sort of swimming through my mind and, connected to my own life and the world around me. It's a good also grounding sort of exercise, right? Because if you're feeling sort of some dissociation, like we talked about in the last episode, where you might be feeling disconnected from your life or the world around you, this is very grounding and it keeps you rooted in that because you are actually, forcing yourself to observe and pull out things and think about how you're feeling about them. So that's the protocol. How am I feeling? 3 things I'm grateful for, 3 things I'm proud of myself for, 1 thing I'd like to continue improving on, and something beautiful. So with that, why don't I go ahead and do my best at, going through this protocol with you. So this might take a little bit as I kind of search my own self, but I'll do an abbreviated version. So how am I feeling today? How am I feeling right now? I would say for the most part, I'm feeling positive things. So I'm feeling motivated. I'm feeling inspired, and I am feeling, what is the term? There are things that I'm looking forward to, right? So I guess I have excited anticipation. So why am I feeling those things? Why am I feeling motivated? Well, we've been doing some work in terms of adjusting sort of the approach for how the Deaf the Psych brand is moving forward, especially with this podcast. So there's a lot of work going on behind the scenes right now, and I'm excited about that. And that gives me motivation to kind of continue moving forward. And I feel inspired about that. I've also, found some new systems that have been working well for me in terms of how I'm writing my reports and just handling the work that's in front of me. So that's making me feel kind of motivated, inspired as well. And I already forgot what my last one was, what my other one was. But with those first two, with that sort of feeling of being motivated, being inspired, is there anything to be done about that? And I think the answer is yes. I think that jumping on to this wave, a good thing for me to do would be to actually focus on another project right now. So I think that, since I've been doing a good job of managing the stuff that I have going on and I don't feel burdened and stressed by them, I feel instead kind of inspired by them, it might be a good time for me to set aside a couple hours to do some writing on my next book. So yeah, let's go ahead and talk about some things I'm grateful for. So what am I grateful for? I am almost at 5 million downloads for the podcast. And I'm really feeling grateful for that. I looked at the stats yesterday, and that's crazy to me. And I've been feeling very grateful for just having a platform and having the ability to, talk directly into your ears right now and have you, hopefully get something out of it. So definitely grateful for, the platform that I have. I'm also grateful for the opportunity to, have a childcare at my kid's school, because after this, I'm going to go pick them up from school. It's, like 4:30 right now. And I'm really grateful to be able to pay for childcare so that I can do things like this and then pick them up and be, not stressed about having not got enough stuff done. And I am also grateful for the fact that, I haven't had a bunch of cancellations. There was a week a few weeks ago where every single testing client of mine canceled, there was just something in the air, and that was stressful because to me, cancellations mean no money from that case, which isn't a big deal when it's one or two, but when it's a whole week's worth, it's like, okay, there's a dent in the next paycheck. Being in private practice, So I'm really grateful that that hasn't persisted and that I've been able to see people and, obviously do good clinical work with them, but also make a living. Interestingly enough, those were all 3 gratitude points that were different than the ones that I listed this morning. So there's a lot of stuff to be grateful for out there. Okay, what am I proud of? I am proud of myself for, I got done with work at the office today and I was like, maybe I should go into town and go like grab a beer or a glass of wine and like, kind of just like dick around in town for a little bit. And that's totally fine. I could have done that, but I am proud of myself for saying, let me get something done first. So I stopped, I grabbed a coffee and I just ripped out a report. I just whipped it out in like an hour, and I'm really glad that I did because that's done and off my plate now. I am also proud of myself for relationally in my relationships. I think that I've been pretty good about, not really like causing drama for lack of a better term. Like things have felt pretty good. And, if there are things that I, have had concerns about, I've, kind of evaluated whether it's worth it to act on it or not. And, not just being reactive and letting, emotions like pull me around. So I felt pretty good about that. So I'm proud of myself for that. And I'm also proud of myself for getting some physical exercise every day so far this week, because that is something that I had kind of fallen out of the habit of that I do need to get it back in the habit of. So pat on the back to me for that. What would I like to continue improving on? What would I like to continue working on? I would like to continue working on my next book, really. Like new projects that I have a couple things, the book, there's also an audiobook version of one of my books that I'm currently working on, but I would like to continue working on projects that will be, potentially, sources of income for me down the line, new projects to release to you guys, stuff like that. So not just continuing to do well the stuff that I have, but growing in a direction. And something beautiful. I'll pick something other than what I had already picked today. I'll say, this is going to sound weird, but there was a barista at Starbucks today. I was sitting there doing work, that report that I was working on, and she was just very, she was super friendly, and there was a lightness about her that she was smiling with everybody that she was with and talking with them, and everybody that walked up was smiling too, and just I could tell that she was bringing joy to everybody's day, and it was just really cool to see. So that was very beautiful. And that will be my other beautiful thing for the day. So that's it. I have had 2 self-therapy sessions today. You've been with me for one of them. And hopefully this protocol helps you out. So I'll just reiterate one more time the 5 points. So self-therapy protocol. Number 1, how am I feeling? Number 2, what am I grateful for? 3 things. Number 3, what am I proud of? 3 things. Number 4, what would I like to continue working on, continue improving at? Number 5, something beautiful. And that's it. Thank you guys for listening. This has been episode 344 of the Hardcore Self-Help Podcast. The website will be up soon. If you're listening to this, as it comes out, the website is still down, but we figured out what's wrong with it. We got all the stuff connected again, but unfortunately the entire site broke. So my wife, Joelle, is currently building a new one. But that's okay. It'll be a nice little refresh on the website, and I'm excited to, direct you guys to it once it's up. So for now, show notes are going to exist on whatever podcast player you use, and I will be back next week, probably with another question and answer episode. So if you want to send me a question for the show, send me an email to duffthepsych@gmail.com. Take good care of yourselves, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.